Hello, it's John the Game Trainer here. My friend asked me if I would do a teach of Eclipse and film it for him. So I'm going to start off with an introduction to the races in the game. In the base game you have 7, so you've got 6 copies of a Terran race. They're all named slightly different, so Terran Republic and Terran Conglomerate, etc. Those kind of names, but they're all functionally the same. So I'll explain that, and then I'll compare the Terran to the other 6 races, which are all on the reverse side of your Terran player mats. Okay, so we will start with just for the top. So every race has 4 types of units. So they've got small, medium and large ships, interceptors, cruisers and dreadnoughts. And then they have a starbase. The starbase is slightly special because it is situated in a certain spot and can't move, whereas the other 3 are kind of maneuverable, and you can attack with those. Obviously the starbase is more of a defense item. So this is the general layout for there. I won't explain necessarily what all these symbols mean. I'll do that in a future video, but suffice to say they have a cost, which is here in materials. They have a certain amount of slots. They have a certain amount of weapons, power, hull, etc. Okay. The humans start with the star-based technology. So until you research this technology, you can't actually build star bases. Now you are able to build interceptors, cruisers, and dreadnoughts from the start, but star bases require this technology. So the humans start with that. Okay, and then the other kind of differences that are possible are we have these action discs. Now we'll explain how actions work again in a future video, but the 1 explore, the 2 discs above the influence, the 1 research, the 2 upgrades, the 2 buys and the 3 move are like your baseline. And then you have the humans also start with 3 colony ships and can convert resources 2 to 1. Okay, so that's just the that's the baseline that you're going to be comparing all the other races to. Okay, so I'm just going to put the human ships just underneath so you can see the differences between all the different races. And so this is the planter race, usually played with green. And so the planters have very odd looking ships. So you can see that they've lost slots here for their upgrades. So they are the same functionally here. Now they have extra abilities out that can't be upgraded, so they're going to be constant throughout the game. And this one is 2 extra power and an additional a modifier for your attack roll is what those mean. And again, I will explain those later. The other thing is it's slightly slower. So in this interceptor here, you have one kind of tent symbol inside and then 2 outside, so that would be a total of 3. And then the planter has a total initiative of 1, and so the ship with the more initiative will act first, and then it will go in descending order. Okay, and so you can see that actually all the planters lack this bonus initiative that these kind of the baseline humans have, and their star bases are slower, and so they'll always be acting behind unless you choose to modify that. But they all have this additional targeting, this bonus for modifying attack, and this power, which will all make sense when I get to that bit of the teach. They also have the starbase technology, so they can build star bases from the get-go. So now if I'll just flip this over here, we can kind of go back to comparing the human. The human is below, and then I've got the planter is here. So when you explore as a human, you take 1 tile, and you can either choose to take the explore action or discard it. When you're the planter, you can do that twice in a round. The influence is the same, the research is the same. I will explain how you do these actions again later. The buy will be the same, and the movement, actually, you get to trigger 3 times as a human and only 2 times as the planter. And then the planter has a slight kind of nerf, which is this kind of symbol from the cube. When your territories are overtaken by other players, your cubes are removed immediately, your colonies are removed immediately. Whereas normally for a human or for other races, they have to be kind of destroyed by your opponent. Okay, they have 4 colony ships, so they can obviously colonize more. They have a 3-to-1 ratio for resources, and they get an additional victory point for every tile they control at the end of the game. Okay, so they're probably all about expansion. Okay, so I'm going to put those to the side, and then we're going to have a look at the Eridani Empire. Okay, so you can see here they have very similar ships. I think almost identical. There's a few little changes. So they have an additional power for their dreadnought down here, and that's the same. So they have. So the only difference is they have an extra power for their dreadnoughts. They start with the plasma cannon research, the gauze shield, and the fusion drive, and so these are upgrades to your weapons, to your shields, which you don't start with any, and your fusion and your drive. So the weapons do more damage. The gauze shield makes it harder for you to be hit, so it reduces. It's a hit modifier, and the fusion drive allows you to move more hexes per movement action. And then I'll flip it again. Okay. And so you can see that the explore action is the same, the influence action is the same, the research action, the upgrade, the build action is the same, but the move is reduced. The other element is they start with 2 reputation tokens, which are these shield tokens. They have a 1 to 4 in the base game value, and so you will draw these randomly and hide them on your upside down on your player board. And each race is allowed a certain number, that's designated by your spaces here. Okay, so the Eridani starts with potentially 2 to 4 points. 2 to 8 points starting here. Obviously, he's starting with probably the most likely outcome, which is 4. Okay. They also have 3 colony ships, 3-to-1 ratio conversion, and the other interesting thing is most of the races start with between 5 and 0 of the 3 different resources. The 3 different resources, I should say, are research, materials, and money, and they've got these little counters that run along the track. But the Eridani start with 26 money, and so that's quite an interesting kind of asymmetry there. And again, I will explain what all of these do and what all these mean, and kind of what you do with your resources when I get to that point. Okay. We've then got the Hydron Progress, and so the Hydron Progress have very similar ships to the humans. I think probably identical from what I can see. They start with. They don't start with a starbase, but they do start with advanced labs. So I will explain what those are. So on here, this is one of the starting tiles. This is for a human. There's a little hand symbol which denotes it's for a human. Every race has its own little symbol, and you just match the home world with a symbol. So on when you're starting, you're going to have a cube, a colony cube, on each of the open spaces, just like that, and these will be taken off from this area here, and what it will do is, as you can see, the numbers are slowly getting larger and larger, and this will be your income for the round. So money, research, and materials. And so this particular race here, the humans will start with 1 cube in each, taken off. So these will all be full of cubes at the start of the game, so this will all be covered. But the Hydron Progress would start with an additional cube in this space here. So you can see there's a star there, and so you can only go in that space with your colony if you have the corresponding technology. So there's an advanced labs, advanced economy, and advanced mining, and there's a symbol on all the different types of hexes with these, and so you can then start to colonize and increase your income in the different colors. Okay, so that's just that, and then we will just shift this down to compare the humans. So so far the explore is the same, the influence is the same, the research, the Hydrogen progress get to research twice in a turn. They get the same amount of upgrades, same amount of builds. They move one time less, or they activate movement once less. They have 3 colony ships and they have a 3-to-1 ratio, and their starting resources are kind of back to the normal. Okay. Okay. We've then got the Orion Hegemony. Okay, so the Orion Hegemony start off with some extra items on their ships. And so these, I think we've already mentioned it, these are Gauss shields. So you can see the technology is already there. And these make it a lot harder to hit the different ships. So each of these reduces or increases the increases the requirement for the hit chance. The other thing that all the ships have is a bonus on their power, and again I'll explain that soon. And the other thing is they also have a bonus on their initiative. So you can see the normal is 3 for the Inceptor, and these guys have 4. So these will be acting first in a combat round. You then have the 2 researchers. So we've already talked about the Gauss shield, but we've also got these neutron bombs. So we've already talked about when a player wins a fight and can then start attacking the losing player's cubes in that sector, the colonies. If you have the neutron bombs, you don't need to fight, you just remove them immediately. Okay, so that kind of saves a bit of time and allows you to take over the sector immediately. And then you can see that they are almost identical to the humans, except for they move less. There's a little, quite hard to see I'm sure on the camera, there's a little symbol here that matches your cruiser symbol, your cruiser shape. So it's 6 slightly offset boxes. And that means that instead of starting with an interceptor like every other race does, so the Orion Hegemony starts with a cruiser. So they get a bit of a bonus in the attacking, in the combat to begin with. And they also have they have 3 colony ships, but they have a 4-to-1 conversion rate, which is, I think, the worst that I've seen. Okay. And then we have, last but not least, we have the Mechanema. And so the Mechanema's main thing seems to be reduced ships prices. So you can see that they only cost you 2, whereas the humans will have to pay 3, 5, and 8, 2, 4, 7, and 2. And there's some items up here which we haven't discussed yet, but these guys are cheaper as well, and I'll explain those when we get to them. You start off with a positron computer, but none of the positron computers are actually installed yet, but you have the ability to. And this will increase the hit chance that you'll have. So this will add a +2 to your dice rolls. Okay? And then the same actions for the first 3, and then the upgrade is boosted, so you can upgrade 3 times in your upgrade action, and you can build 3 times in your build action. The movement is reduced compared to humans. You have 3 colony ships, and your conversion rate is 3-to-1. Okay, so I'm just going to flip these over like that. Okay, and we've got the final race, probably the oddest race. So they are very similar ships to human ships. Okay, I think in fact identical. They don't have any research. They have a slightly modified explore. So instead of drawing one tile and deciding to explore that tile or not, you can draw 2 tiles and either choose one of them or discard both of them. Okay. So the other actions are all the same apart from remove, which is reduced. You then have this little skull symbol with an arrow. So on some of the hexes that you'll see, okay, you have this skull. So this is a double skull, but some of them have a single skull. And so that denotes an ancient. So that is a ship that exists there when you explore. And so it's a kind of an NPC or a kind of and so for everybody else they're enemies and they will shoot on sight. For the descendants of Draco, they are friends, and so they can't be attacked, but they can be cohabited with. And then they've got 3 colony ships, 3-to-1 ratio on converting resources, and for every ancient left on the board at the end of the game, the descendants of Draco get 1 point. Okay, so that's all the factions. I will try and cut this up into a couple of pieces, the different teach elements, and then we'll kind of move on to setting up the game. Fantastic.